Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 255, Lysis 223a to b. With any luck, we'll be able to finish the dialogue this time. The supposedly philosophical part of the conversation has finished, and we are left with the description of the breaking up of the gathering of boys in the dressing room of the palaestra, as the ceremony had already come to an end, and I presume Mikkos wanted to close the palaestra. Interestingly, we never get to see Mikkos. Socrates doesn't talk to Mikkos, who is supposedly a companion of Socrates and someone who praises Socrates, but he isn't anywhere in this dialogue, which is rather suspicious. It's also suspicious that Socrates bothers to tell us, that is, tell the audience, the unknown audience, what happened at the end of the conversation. He could have just ended the conversation with the final aporia about friendship, but he chooses to carry on. In my rather unconventional approach to Platonic dialogues, I assume that anything written in the dialogue has some significance, and this is not simply dramatic window dressing to make the reader feel satisfied by the end of the dialogue. Indeed, if we are correct about the notion of intoxication being a remedy for hemlock, for the unthinking state of most people's minds, the last thing Plato would want to do is have the reader calm down by the end of the dialogue. Similarly, that would be the last thing Socrates would want his unknown audience to do. He would surely want his audience to go away puzzled, confused, somewhat dissatisfied. This could then lead to the beginning of dialectic thought. The last thing Socrates had said is that he was thinking of talking to one of the older boys in the group. We don't have to take this seriously because he would obviously see that the palaestra was closing down, but the comment would signify that the conversation with Lysis and Menexenus was officially over. Kata hosper daimones dines proselphontes hoi paedagogoi hotetu Menexenu kai hotu Lysidos echontes autontus adelphus paricalun kai ekelion autus oikad apienai edegar en opse. And then, just like some demons, the paedagogoi, the one of Menexenus and the one of Lysis, approached, having the brothers of Menexenus and Lysis, and were summoning and ordering them to go away home, for it was already late. The word I've translated as demons is daimones, and daimones are simply gods, divine entities. They don't necessarily have a negative connotation at this time. The best reason I can think of for likening them to gods is that they are like the gods in a tragedy, which come right at the last moment and sort everything out. They are the dei ex machina, if you will. There are no actual problems for them to solve. They are simply doing their job and telling the boys that they have to go home. A paidagogos is literally one who leads a child. He is a slave who accompanies children when they are out and about to make sure that no harm comes to them, and they sometimes carry their equipment as well, such as a writing tablet and a stylus. Another of their tasks would be to make sure that no older male harasses them, but they were conspicuously absent throughout the whole of this conversation. The reason for this is cleverly introduced here, that the paedagogoi were looking after the brothers of Menexenus and Lysis, and they would be even younger, and they would have been among the boys playing in the courtyard. The reason for going, they say, is that it is already late. They don't say that the palaestra is being closed for the day, but that it is late for them to be going home. In other words, they have instructions from the parents when to get back. Presumably, they were told to get back by dark. They would know that it's getting late when the sun goes down. Tomen un proton, kai heimes, kai hoi periestotes, autus apeilaonomen. Well, at first, we and the ones standing around began driving them away, or we could say tried to drive them away. Epeidede uden effrontidzon hemon al hupobarbarizontes eganactun tecai uden heton ekalun al edocun hemin hupopepocotes entois hermaiois aporoi enai prosferestai hetethentes un auton dielusamenten senusian. But since they didn't pay any attention to us, but being somewhat barbaric, in other words, speaking Greek badly as a second language, they were getting irritated and nonetheless were still calling. And indeed, they seemed to us to be a bit tipsy in the Hermaia, the ceremony for Hermes, and there was no way to get to them, in other words, to persuade them to stop. We were defeated by them and we broke up the gathering. Probably the most interesting thing here is the way Socrates treats the paedagogoi. He speaks about them in the way that an aristocrat would speak about them. They're ruffians, they're barbaric, they don't know Greek very well, and they do all they can to stop the aristocrats enjoying themselves, when in fact they have been told to do this. This is their job. If they don't bring the sons back on time, the parents will punish them. The observation that they were a bit tipsy is somewhat interesting. As Socrates observes, there had been the Hermaia. This is the whole point of the opening of the palaestra today. They were celebrating this festival for Hermes, and obviously everyone would be drinking. I'm not sure about the younger boys, but most of the others would be drinking. This is part of the ceremony, and it's a bit unfair to say that the paedagogoi were tipsy. Well, they may well have been, but that shouldn't be an accusation or a reason for their refusal to allow the gathering to continue. They have very good reasons for taking the boys home. It was already late. The parents obviously wanted the boys back home, and the slaves would be punished if they didn't take the boys home on time. This has nothing to do with them being drunk. At the same time, why would Socrates mention them being drunk? And why would he say that they were aporoi? They were difficult to deal with. There was no way to get to them, to persuade them. Aporia is the result of Socratic intoxication. People run out of answers. They do not have a way out of the problem. I suggest that Socrates is raising the issue of intoxication, puzzlement, aporia, and various ideas like that as a parting gift to his unknown audience. It might remind them that they had been talking about intoxication, the healing effect of alcohol, and hinting at aporia without the actual word aporia, but describing the paidagogoi as aporoi, might help to make his audience uneasy. Homos degoge e de apionton auton, nun men indigo Lysicae Menexene, categeles doi gegonamen, egote geron aner, kai humes. Nevertheless, while they were departing, I said, "Well now, Lysis and Menexenus, we have become a laughingstock, I, an old man, and you. Erusigar hoide apiontes, hos oiometha hemes, alelon philoi enai, kai megaren humin tithemi, upode hoti estin ho philos, hoioite egenometha exiuren." For these people going away will say that we think that we are friends of each other. For I place myself among you. But what is a friend, we have not yet been able to discover. And this is the end of the dialogue. This last part is critical for understanding the dialogue. Socrates is leaving both of his target audiences, the unknown audience, the one he's been narrating all of this to, and Menexenus and Lysis. He is telling them that they are a laughingstock. This is what happens in heuristics. When people laugh at the opposition, it means that the opposition is seen to be stupid and it has lost the argument. For people like Menexenus in particular, this would be stinging. Next time, some general conclusions.